Unit 8. Lesson 1. Reading. Objective. Read a traditional story. Reading skill. Identify the main message of a story. Activity 1. Look at the pictures and title. Answer the questions. Give reasons. 1. Which country do you think the story is from? The story is from China. 2. What animal is in the story? A swan is in the story. 3. Who do you think the main characters are? The main characters are the emperor, his assistant and an artist. Activity 2. Read the story quickly and check your ideas in Activity 1.
The Perfect Swan. There was once a Chinese emperor named Zhang Wei. He was a strong and powerful man, but he was also kind and took care of his people. However, there was one problem. He had a bad temper and became angry very quickly. Zhang Wei loved art. He owned thousands of paintings, but he always wanted one more. One day, he asked his assistant Hong, "Who is the most famous painter in China?" "His name is Cheng Li," replied Hong. "He's the best artist in the country." "Excellent," said Zhang Wei. "Do you think he could paint a beautiful swan for me?" "If you ask him, he'll paint any animal you like," replied Hong. Zhang Wei invited the artist Cheng Li to his palace. "Cheng Li," said Zhang Wei, "will you paint a picture of a swan for me?" "Of course," replied Cheng Li, "but it will take some time." "I understand," said Zhang Wei. "You can stay at the palace until you finish the painting." After 1 year, Zhang Wei visited Cheng Li in his room at the palace. "Cheng Li," said Zhang Wei, "is my painting ready yet?" "I'm sorry," said Cheng Li. "Swans are not easy to paint. I'm going to need more time. Could you please come back in another year?" 1 year later, the emperor returned, but the painting still wasn't ready. Zhang Wei was furious. "I'll give you 1 more year," he shouted. "If my painting isn't finished, you'll be sorry." Another year later, Zhang Wei came back to collect the painting. Cheng Li put a large sheet of paper on the table. Then he took a brush and some ink and painted the most beautiful swan the emperor had ever seen. Zhang Wei was astonished. "That is perfect," he cried. "It's magnificent." But Zhang Wei was still furious. "I've waited for 3 years," he shouted. "And you painted this swan in 2 minutes. How dare you make a fool of me?" He was so angry that he sent Cheng Li to a land far away and told him never to return to China. A week later, Zhang Wei told his servants to empty Cheng Li's room in the palace. Zhang Wei was astonished when his servants found thousands of paintings of swans. The emperor suddenly realized his mistake. Cheng Li wasn't slow or lazy. He had practiced every day for 3 years until he learnt how to paint the perfect swan. Zhang Wei had made a terrible mistake because of his bad temper. He sent a message to Cheng Li to say sorry and invited him to come back to China. Cheng Li forgave Zhang Wei and returned to live in the palace as the emperor's royal painter.
Activity 3. What do you think the main message of the story is?
Stories usually have a message or moral. Is it a good thing to have a bad temper?
No, it isn't.
What can happen if you get angry and act without thinking?
You can make the wrong decisions. You can make people unhappy.
What is the main message of the story?
It's not good to get angry and act without thinking. You should understand the situation before you act.
Let's learn the vocabulary. Astonished. Very, very surprised. I thought she was on holiday, so I was astonished to see her there. Bad temper. A strong feeling of anger that someone shows a lot. Emma has got a bad temper. She gets angry very easily. Collect. To go and get something that you have ordered. I went to the chemist's to collect my medicine. Emperor. A man who rules an empire, similar to a king. Julius Caesar was a famous Roman emperor. Forgive. To stop feeling angry with someone for doing something wrong. I forgot my mum's birthday, but she forgave me. Furious. Very, very angry. My brother broke a window, and my dad was furious. Own. To have something as a possession. He owns houses all over the world. Palace. A very large building, usually where a king or queen lives. The king and queen of my country live in a beautiful palace. Powerful. Strong. Having control over people. He is a very powerful leader. Everyone does what he says. Swan. A large white bird with a long neck that lives near water. Swans are beautiful birds, but they can be dangerous. Lesson 2. Reading comprehension. Objective. Reading skill and learning to learn, recognize different points of view in a story. Activity 1. Read the story on pages 96 to 97 again. Circle T for true or F for false. Underline the information in the story to support your answer. 1. Cheng Li was a good artist. 2. He took 3 years to paint the swan. 3. It took him a long time to paint the swan, because he was lazy. 4. Zhang Wei was furious, because the painting wasn't good enough. 5. Zhang Wei was sorry that he sent Cheng Li away. 2. Who do you think said these things in the story? Write Z for Zhang Wei or C for Cheng Li. 1. I want the best picture of a swan in China. 2. A perfect picture will take a very long time to paint. 3. The swan is not perfect yet, you must wait longer. 4. You have made me look stupid, so I'm going to send you away. 5. I tried to do my best. I don't understand why he's angry with me. Activity 3. Why was Zhong Wei furious with Cheng Li? Do you think he was right to send him away?
Why was Zhong Wei furious with Cheng Li?
He was furious because he thought Cheng Li was making a fool of him by letting him wait for 3 years.
Do you think he was right to send him away?
No, he wasn't. He should not act out of anger and make decision hastily without thinking.
Learning to learn. Recognize different points of view. Every story has a narrator. The storyteller. The narrator tells us about the characters, actions and setting of the story. The narrator usually tells the story from one of these points of view. In first person, the narrator is usually a main character and uses I or we. The reader knows the narrator's thoughts and actions. For example,
I was puzzled when the emperor exiled me. I was oblivious to my mistakes.
In third person, the narrator is more like an observer of all the characters and uses he, she, it, or they. I or we is only used in direct speech. For example,
He was a strong and powerful man, but he was also kind and took care of his people.
look back at the perfect swan. Answer the questions. 1. Is it a first person or third person narrative? How do you know? It is a third person narrative because it uses only he and they. 2. Give 2 examples of how the narrator tells us how the characters feel. Zhong Wei was furious. Zhong Wei was astonished.